All right. So I think I know pretty much all of you. Most of us, yeah, we've kind of gone over, we've had some counseling sessions, and as you know, kind of my path um, has uh, involved quite deeply the Course in Miracles. Honestly, well, it wasn't my first introduction to spirituality. Um, when I finally stumbled upon this course, it was just like a spiritual power boost that I couldn't couldn't imagine going through this without it. Just because it was honestly every paragraph of that book is just medicine to my soul. So that's why I'm so passionate about sharing it. So um, I guess what we're gonna do is this will be a little bit of um, a test run, I guess, to see kind of what we can get through. But my plan for today is to go over the first sections of a song of prayer. I believe the song of prayer was actually it's what the last part that was added to the course. Maybe the psychotherapy supplement might have been the last, but it came after the publication of the course and almost as a correction, as a guide to interpreting the course. And so I think that's um, what I like to start with. I'm just kind of going over it for the first time myself. And so, because I kind of started from the beginning, um, but I think it's going to be really helpful to kind of get a framework of what the course is and how we should approach some really core concepts. Um, uh, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up the course. I'll share my screen, and we're just going to read through those sections and then just talk about them, and just kind of my interpretations of them. Um, and that'll kind of be the first half. And after that, I want to do a guided meditation with one of the workbook lessons. So that'll be workbook lesson 79. I have I follow a YouTube channel. It's Beyond the Matrix. I don't know who the name of the guy who does it, but they're amazing meditations. They're guided meditations on the workbook lessons. So he kind of reads through them, but then applies them with really good background music, and he really does it really well. So I don't feel like I need to reinvent the wheel with that one, but it's going to relate into prayer and this deepening the level of prayer and in reframing it and correcting what it is in our minds. So I'm going to delve in. You guys can ask any questions as they come up, and then we'll have a Q&A session, whatever, at the end too, for anything that you guys want to talk about. All right, so let me share my screen here. Oh no. Oh, there it is. All right. So for those of you who know the course, at least the online version, which is what I use most of the time, um, this is the acim.org. So this is for any of you who don't have the course, this is it for free online. You can just read it. Um, and the Song of Prayer, you kind of have the preface, the text, the workbook, the manual, and Song of Prayer is the last section here. Um, so we're just going to go to the first part, which is about prayer. And if you're like me, I came from a pretty religious background. I grew up Catholic, and I didn't have the best experience of it. There's some good that came from it, but overall, my experience was very ritualistic, a lot of guilt-ridden beliefs about God in the sky who was always judging me, but at the same time was merciful to me because not because of he's so loving, but it was because I'm such a wretch and somebody died for me to um, so God could kind of look the other way. And so yeah, there's a lot of guilt. It almost reinforced a lot of the guilt and shame that I had about myself. Um, and that's not everybody's experience of Catholicism, and you can be a Catholic and be enlightened as well. It's not about that. But I just say that because what I find is so incredible about this course, I found it very hard in the beginning. Honestly, like I read the first few lines of the course and I started hearing about the Holy Spirit and God and all that, like when I was on my spiritual path, and it was like, what the hell is this? Like I couldn't do it. There was like a revulsion a little bit, even though at that point I had begun to kind of experience God, but it was in a very new way. And so this course is written in kind of Christian language, but it is a non-dual teaching. Um, it is a really profound orienting of um, kind of Christianity, but also just everything, really, the ego, our whole world. But it uses Christian-based language because it's kind of a Western course. Ironically, the major teachers of this course, and even um, uh, the scribe Helen Schuckman, was Jewish, right? And so it was it's a bizarre thing that all this kind of came through a voice of Jesus, right? That came to her. But regardless of all of those parts, just the course speaks for itself. So this is why I love to teach it, because it doesn't really matter where it came from. But if you can get past that, open your mind a little bit to some of these words, some of these um, terms that are used, because as you open your mind to that and even feel some of that resistance that might come up with it, it's the words take on a very profound and new meaning. And one of those words that we're going to talk about today is prayer. Um, so we're going to go to the introduction here. Yeah. So this is the Song of Prayer. So we're going to go over what is prayer, what's its significance, and how do we apply this in the course, in our life, and how can we benefit from this? Um, so prayer, I think, first and foremost, is not what we think it is. Nothing in this world is what we think it is. And so that's really what these sections go over, because often what we think of prayer is like a religious thing, like asking God to fix a problem, or um, asking for a need to be met, or somebody else's, like you pray for somebody else who has cancer, that their cancer will be cured and that there'll be peace in the Middle East. And that's kind of the beginning of prayer. But I think it's also really important within all of this is that prayer is not just an action, right? We're not talking just about a religious practice and that we need to change that religious practice and apply it or whatever. Prayer is something that our mind is doing 24 hours a day. It is a process going on within us at all times. So even just the thought of having needs, of having problems, is prayer on its own. And so often our minds, which are very powerful, are always defining problems, coming up with plans, trying to fix them, right? And so it's always entreating. It's either entreating to ourselves, to the world, to other people. How do we solve the problems? And humanity does this as a whole. Like we're praying to the God of medicine to cure all diseases. We're praying to the God of um, engineering to help all of our roads, and so it's really I'd like you guys to broaden your idea of prayer a little bit, to realizing that it's what the mind does in trying to solve problems. And we think that we have many, many problems. We're all trying to fill this void that we have within our soul, by trying if we can only just, cure all the diseases, then it will be okay. Or if we can just get the right government in place, then we'll be okay. And unfortunately, we're praying to the wrong gods. And so uh, part of this course is about kind of realizing that, including the Christian gods and the other gods, because many of them, the way that we understand it is the problem, right? Because we've created gods in our own image, and we don't realize that we're doing it. And so what the course is kind of really here to help us do is to realize that what we're doing, and so that we can open our minds um, to an experience of God that goes beyond words, beyond definitions, beyond symbols. And so that's what we're going to delve into. So, okay, so I'm going to read some and we'll kind of talk about it. So, here's the introduction. So, prayer is the greatest gift with which God blessed his son at his creation. So here he's talking about his son, which is all of us, all of his creation. It was then what it is to become. The single voice creator and creation share. The song the Son sings to the Father, who returns the thanks it offers him unto the Son. Endless the harmony, endless too the joyous concord of the love they give forever to each other. And in this, creation is extended. God gives thanks to his extension in his Son. His Son gives thanks for his creation. In the song of his creating in his Father, in the song of his creating in his Father's name. The love they share is what all prayer will be throughout eternity when time is done. For such it was before time seemed to be. So that paragraph, if you honestly, it sounds like flowery fluffery, and not necessarily what the course is looking like. They're kind of giving an introduction here. This is what prayer will look like when we've realized who we really are, when we realize that we are the perfect, um, untouchable, innocent, ever-loving Son of God, who is at union with all of his brothers, with all of us, when we realize oneness and we realize that we're one with God. And so that's kind of what it's referring to there. Not super helpful, um, except just to set the tone for where we want to go. So what's great about this section is it's going to go into the nitty gritty of how we get there. So, to you who are in time a little while, prayer takes the form that best will suit your need. You have but one. What God created one must recognize its oneness and rejoice that what illusions seem to separate is one forever in the mind of God. Prayer must now be the means by which God's Son leaves separate goals and separate interests by and turns in holy gladness to the truth of union in his Father and himself. So, so this section of the course is like this is going to go through, like they call it the ladder of prayer. So it's different levels of consciousness around this. And so we start from having needs and wants and trying to fulfill those needs to slowly actually realizing that this world of separation that involves needs is not is not the real world. And so slowly, little by little, we come to the awakening that we have one need, and that is to realize who we are, and to join with God. And so, um, yeah, so it's a slowly as we engage with the course, our interpretation of our needs, slowly evolves into one, and where we recognize that this hole that we have in our heart that we're trying to fill with all these fixing problems and needs and everything, um, there's only one thing that can fill it, and it's already happened. Okay, so lay down your dreams, you holy Son of God, referring to us, um, and rising up as God created you, dispense with idols, which are our wants and needs and problems, and remember him. Prayer will sustain you now and bless you as you lift your heart to him in rising song that reaches higher and then higher still, until both high and low have disappeared. Faith in your goal will grow and hold you up as you ascend the shining stairway to the lawns of heaven and the gate of peace. For this is prayer, and here salvation is. This is the way, it is God's gift to you. So yeah, so what they're saying here is that it starts off, when we start this off, what we want to do is go to all those problems, go to all those needs that we see that we want to fix, what our whole life and our whole world is preoccupied with, right? Solving the problems in the Middle East, believing that the world is falling into tyranny, and that we need a better government, or we need a better constitution, or all of these problems, down to the little things like doing the dishes. So all of these are what we start off with. And as we lay down these idols of these things that we think we need, um, we slowly come closer and closer to the realization of what our one need actually is. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the first section here. So, true prayer. So, prayer is a way offered by the Holy Spirit to reach God. So, Holy Spirit here, it's not, again, it's one of those words that's super Christian. Even God uh, is a pretty Christian word. It's really the source, the one who created our consciousness, not necessarily the world that we live in, but the one who is our source. And the Holy Spirit here, a lot of people like to use other words. So it is our inner teacher. It is our higher self. It is any guide, Jesus, that you use. You can use it, really, the word is just a symbol, but it is the remembrance of our unity with God, with the universe, with oneness. And so when we come into this world, this hellscape of separation, there's always in our mind it's there, the memory of what we really are. And so that's what the Holy Spirit really is in the teaching of the Course. And as long as we tune into it, if we ask for help, we ask for a new interpretation, that it's this Holy Spirit that will bring us back to our memory of who we are. So it is so prayer, it is not merely a question or an entreaty. It cannot succeed until you realize that it asks for nothing. How else could it serve its purpose? It is impossible to pray for idols and hope to reach God. True prayer must avoid the pitfall of asking to entreat. Ask rather to receive what is already given, to accept what is already there. And so this, I think, is really beautiful. But what it's saying is that, so prayer, while we should engage in it, we should ask of our needs. We need to bring all of our needs, all of our problems, all of those to the Holy Spirit within our mind and ask that our problems be solved. But what changes, and this is what's so beautiful about real prayer, and as we grow in prayer, is that what we're actually asking for is not that Israel and Palestine have a ceasefire or that Justin Trudeau be kicked out of office. What really happens is what we we lay those aside, we bring those in, because the problem is not those problems that we think we have, like the gas bill that you have, that you don't know how you're going to pay for it, right? Those are not really the problems. And so what we do in prayer is not actually, first you can ask for those things, but they're it's not a very successful way of praying because our minds are very powerful. And so when we declare that I need money in my bank account, what you're actually saying, you're not asking for money in your bank account. You're actually declaring that I cannot be happy until I have money in my bank account. And so um, the problem is our problems, our needs are actually declarations of our mind that we are separate, that we are lacking, that we are inadequate, and we are weak. And so what we do is we bring those needs forward and ask God, the Holy Spirit, heal my mind, help me to see this differently and to see that I'm not a being that actually needs these things, right? And so that's where the big transformation can really happen as we ascend up this ladder of understanding what prayer really is. And also, what they're saying here, so ask rather to receive what is already given and to accept what is already there. Here is a big place where people tend to get um, caught up, I guess, because sometimes they're like, okay, well, you're doing the serenity prayer and you're kind of uh, being like, oh, well, help me just to accept that the world is falling into tyranny and just to be okay with it, right? And or to accept that there's horrible genocides happening in the Middle East, um, and just to be okay with that. And it's not that because so it's not just telling us to resign to what is going on within our life, but to wake up to what's actually going on. Because just behind this world that we see, which is honestly kind of a hellscape, like I said, um, just behind it is the truth of what we are. And that is the most beautiful experience of light that you could imagine. And it's right there, right behind it. And that's what we're what we're asking. When we realize who we really are, that we are this the Son of God, like the Holy Son of God, right? The one creation, perfectly innocent, always loving. That's what we really are, and that's what we are right now. But we're in denial. And so all of these problems are declarations that, no, I'm not that. I'm this lacking little human being who has these needs. And help me to fix these problems in the world. And so when we accept what's really going on, it can feel like the ego will react a little bit and be like, oh, what, I'm just supposed to be okay with these problems? Look at the horrible atrocities that are going on. We need to fix this, right? And so our mind can get caught up in that a little bit. But if you can tolerate that a little while, just wait, help me to see this differently. That's what so many of these lessons are, that I'm never upset for the reason I think. That we start, the light will start to shine through where we get the real answer to our prayers, which is to fill this void that we're always looking to fill, but we can't find it within the world. Okay. So you have been told to ask the Holy Spirit for the answer to any specific problem, and that you will receive a specific answer if it is your need. You have also been told that there is only one problem and one answer. In prayer, this is not contradictory. There are decisions to make here, and they must be made whether they be illusions or not. You cannot be asked to accept answers which are beyond the level of need. You cannot be asked to accept answers which are beyond the level of need that you can recognize. Therefore, it is not the form of the question that matters, nor how it is asked. The form of the answer, if given by God, will suit your need as you see it. This is merely an echo of the reply of his voice. The real sound is always a song of thanksgiving and love. And so what he's saying here is that it doesn't matter. It's not a matter of the formula that you say. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter kind of what you say, even if you're saying you're asking for prayer for peace in the Middle East or whatever. He's saying there what you're asking for is an echo. And so if you're still in, which most of us are, and really I am too, and like in this idea that I'm a human being within the world, sometimes our answers to our prayers will come in those ways. It'll be a healing of a cancer, it will be a ceasefire in the Middle East, or it will be those other things. But what he's asking here is that don't get focused on those things, because what the real answer to that is not actually those things you get within the world. It is that what did that produce for you? And so that is the thanksgiving and love that shines through when a miracle happens, when you get that thing or whatever. But if you think that it's from that thing, then you're still caught in the cycle, and you got to keep going until you learn that the problems are not what you think they are. But the answer is always in the love, the peace, the light that starts to shine through. And so we think that that's the result of getting what we want, but it's not. We get at when we learn this, that when we go to the gratitude, when we go to the love, the peace, and we ask for that first, the echo of that is the beautiful things in the world, the sunsets, the peace, the forgiveness, the reconciliation with friends or family who've been estranged from. Those come as a result of the love and getting in touch with the light. It's so we think, for example, that we're asking for that reconciliation, but really when we realize that we're one already, then the results, I guess, start to manifest in the world, but only from a place that you realize you don't need the results anyway, you know? So when you're searching for those things that you need in the world, you're blocking yourself from finding the answer. But when you stop caring about getting those things, but go to the light, go to the realization of oneness and love that's within you, and then actually those things come because uh, because they're just the whole world is just a reflection of our own mind. Okay. So here he's kind of saying that again. So you cannot then ask for the echo. It is the song that is the gift. Along with it come the overtones, the harmonics, the echoes, but these are secondary. In true prayer, you hear only the song. All the rest is merely added. You have sought first the kingdom of heaven, and all else has indeed been given you. So here what he's saying is the more that we can go in, so we should bring our problems, bring our prayers, bring our needs there, but then let them go. And the more we can let go of what we think we need, what we think the problem is, and go to that experience of oneness and of peace and of unconditional love and forgiveness. When we have that unity, then everything else comes as a result of it. So what happens is in most of our thinking, like I said before, is that we're seeking peace. We think we'll be happy when I have a house and I have $100,000 in the bank and my marriage is doing well, you know, all of our problems solved. Then we will feel good. But if we go to the feeling, the experience first, and that is our goal, regardless of what happens within the world, then ironically, then the results come from that place. The secret of true prayer is to forget the things you think you need. To ask for the specific is much the same as to look on sin and to forgive it. So there, we'll get to that later, but that's called forgiveness to destroy. So to look on sin, I see, like I saw what you did, I saw how horrible you actually are, but I'll forgive you, right? So the real process of forgiveness, and we'll get into more detail on that in another session, but is to actually see that sin is impossible, right? And then to move on, and to realize that you're already one with that other person. So also in the same way, they're saying here, in prayer, you overlook your specific needs as you see them and let them go into God's hands. There they become your gifts to him, for they tell him that you would have no gods before him, no love but his. What could his answer be but your remembrance of him? Can this be traded for a bit of trifling advice about a problem of an instant's duration? God answers only for eternity, but still all little answers are contained in this. So yeah, the secret is to let go of all those problems. Offer those in prayer to God, to your source, higher self, your Holy Spirit, and say, heal my mind of the belief that I'm this pitiful self that has all these needs, or that my friend or the ones I care about are these pitiful miserable selves who have all these needs. And so cure my mind of that. And when you do, you remember who you are. And so what we think sometimes that we ask for things in prayer, right? We get upset when we don't get what we wanted within the world. And the reason is because the problem is that we're asking for too little. You're asking for little things that would only be band-aids and would never solve the problem. There's only one problem, and that is that we think that we're a human being in this big bad world, that we are born and that we die, and we're not remembering who we are. When we are, that's the only thing that will fill this void that we have within our souls. And I think all of it, most of us have probably realized by this point that you can try to fix your problems, but then more problems just show up, right? It's like there's no satisfying need that will ever make you happy within the world. It will just, yeah, it not once you've had this experience of peace within yourself. So prayer is a stepping aside, a letting go, a quiet time of listening and loving. It should not be confused with supplication of any kind, because it is a way of remembering your holiness, who you really are. Why should holiness entreat? Being fully entitled to everything. Being fully entitled to everything love has to offer. And it is to love you go in prayer. Prayer is an offering, a giving up of yourself to be at one with love. There is nothing to ask because there is nothing left to want. That nothingness becomes the altar of God. It disappears in Him. So, yeah, when you realize who you really are, when you allow all of your needs to be redefined and to recognize that there's only one problem, and that's when we have the ability for it to be solved. And then when you've had that experience, when you've had that hole in your soul be filled, all your other problems, all your other needs just disappear. You're like, they're no longer needs. Okay, so this is not a level of prayer that everyone can attain as yet. Those who have not reached it still need your help in prayer, because their asking is not yet based upon acceptance. Help in prayer does not mean that another mediates between you and God, but it does mean that the other stands beside you and helps raise you up to Him. One who has realized the goodness of God prays without fear, and one who prays without fear cannot but reach Him. He can therefore also reach His Son, wherever He may be and whatever form He may seem to take. So, so here's where, and I think this is really key because I didn't quite get it. I didn't get it when I first started this course, when I first started things, but where they're talking about the Holy Spirit, your higher self, your holy teacher, your inner teacher. Um, when you've started to delve into your problems, when you've started to delve into your pain and all of your traumas, all of those things that we have within us, the problems of the world that are going on within our mind, um, at the superficial levels, you can kind of do some cognitive behavioral therapy. You can do some work, and you can start to notice some results when you start changing your mind about the world. But at certain levels, our pain, and I'm sure all of you have experienced this, if not, you will, that there's some levels of pain that you're like, how the hell do I get out of this? Or you notice there's patterns in your life that are just so ingrained and repetitive that you've tried everything to get out of them. The value of the Holy Spirit is it is yourself. We're not talking about somebody who's external to you. We're all one. This is the remembrance of who we really are. And so to entreat the one who remembers uh, is very powerful because you're opening your mind and you're calling on a higher knowledge that you're acknowledging that you're not in. So when you're on this ego level, you're stuck in your problems, you're in the depths of your pain, or you just keep falling back into it. You need to open yourself to an another level of knowledge. So you have to admit that you don't know how the hell to get out of this. And that's very powerful because then all of a sudden you're letting go of all of the patterns that have kept you in that state of mind. And so by calling on the Holy Spirit or your inner teacher or the one who's not you or is you, but it's you're you're opening to a higher level that uh does not bypass the pain. You're not asking like, Holy Spirit, look after this problem, and then you go about your merry way. What they're saying here, it's not that you're asking them to take care of the problem for you, but to bring you up to transform your view of yourself, and so that you can reach God. So yeah, it's not about. Some people will kind of be like, oh, I'm going to leave that one to the Holy Spirit, and Holy Spirit, look after the Middle East or whatever. No, this prayer is about going deep into the problems, going deep into the pain, bringing it to the forefront, which is very painful. This is not an easy process. But when you like, we're going into the problems, going into the pain, and then entreating, Holy Spirit, God, help me to see this in a new way. And then you keep it there, or you do it for a short while and then come back to it. but the transformation happens within your own mind. So this is a very intensive process. It is not just a Holy Spirit, take care of that, or God bless somebody who has cancer. Like, no, if you somebody has cancer and you're concerned about that, it is a painful thing. You're confronting mortality, you're confronting guilt, you're confronting maybe that you like that person has cancer. Thank God they have it, not me, you know? There is a thought of separation and a pain that is there. So that is this process of prayer. You go into all of that, look at that image of them in cancer, suffering away, right? And bring that within your mind and face every little part of it, right? All the pain and the guilt and the judgment and the um um or maybe it's blame of God or the universe or the Pfizer for causing this cancer in this person, right? So all the unforgiveness that is behind not just your own illnesses, but the illnesses of the people you care about. This is the process. We bring that up and then we ask, help me to see this in a new way. And that's where the our mind is shifted and changed to a way that we can see that there only ever is one problem, right? Um, and so yeah, it's an intensive process. This is the last paragraph here. So praying to Christ in anyone is true prayer because it is a gift of thanks to his Father. To ask that Christ be but himself is not an entreaty. It is a song of thanksgiving for what you are. Herein lies the power of prayer. It asks nothing and receives everything. This prayer can be shared because it receives for everyone. To pray with one who knows that this is true is to be answered. Again, I think they're talking with the Holy Spirit here. Perhaps the specific form of resolution for a specific problem will occur to either of you. It does not matter which. Perhaps it will reach both if you are genuinely attuned to one another. It will come because you have realized that Christ is in both of you. That is its only truth. So here they're alluding to another part that we're going to come to later on in the Song of Prayer, where we're talking about praying with others and for others. And uh, what they're really saying here is praying to the Christ in the other person. So a big part of this world when we came here is this separation of us from others, that there's Patrick and there's Monique and there's Kara, and more so that there's the good people and the bad people. There's the government and their victims and their subjects, right? And there's the World Economic Forum and the people that have to suffer all of their policies, right? And so um, inherent within this world is a separation between us and other people. And so prayer is a joining with God, but even more like a big part of that is actually the joining of ourselves with others and especially our enemies. That's why Jesus, this course, we'll go over some of the other sections here, but he's going to talk specifically about praying for our enemies and how that's actually done. But what he's saying here is praying to the Christ in that other person. So the one that you're looking for to answer your prayers and your problems is the God who resides in Justin Trudeau, the God who resides in Klaus Schwab, or whoever most annoys you, the person you hate at the moment. Right now, it's kind of my landlord person, you know? And so that is a practice that is just honestly extremely powerful because it's so difficult. Where when you're praying to God to solve your problems and all of that, to go to the light in your enemy and ask them to cure your mind and your soul of all of its problems and all of your pain. To look and see the Christ in them, the light who they really are. And when you can feel that the love coming from that person, um, that heals and cures your problems way more than any other. Because when you can see God and your God, the one who saves you, the one who comforts you, the one who solves your only problem, all of your problems, in the face of that person who annoys the crap out of you. And you can't even stand being around them. When you can do that and when you can practice that, that cuts down, it honestly shrinks the fabric of reality and brings you way closer. And that's one of the parts of prayer that this section will talk about, which is praying through and with our enemies. And that is one of the greatest ways really to meet your needs. And that's why the course focuses so deeply on forgiveness. Forgiveness is that way because the process of forgiveness um, removes that separation that we have with our enemies. And as we do, we wake up closer and closer to who we really are, and brings us closer to that union with God. So, all right. So that is all I'm going to go over here. I'll kind of open it up to people if they have any questions about this section, and then we'll go to a bit of a guided meditation on lesson 79. Let me see here. Does anybody have any questions? Or I think you really touched on a huge part of it, right? Which is bringing your problem forward and asking for another way to see this. I think that's probably the key ingredient. There's a lot more. So there's layers, right, to all of our problems, right? It seems, or at least we believe that until we realize there's only one problem. But until that point, there's we have big problems, little problems that all seem to be different. And so, um, so yeah, what I what I use every day is lesson number 5, right? So I'm never upset for the reason I think. And so what can be really helpful is going to the feeling that the symptom or the problem is causing you. So sometimes it could be helplessness, it could be anger, it could be guilt, if you felt like you did it to yourself, or maybe you have all of those, right? And so you can tease apart and work with every part of that. And so when you do that, then you would go, maybe I'm not feeling this anger because of this symptom that might have been caused by whatever that happened, right? And maybe it's not maybe I'm not angry because of this symptom. Maybe this anger's been there for a long time. And then you all of a sudden you've starting to release the problem from, or the pain, right? The emotional upset from the circumstances. So you're like, maybe this isn't actually coming from the symptom. Maybe this anger, that this guilt that I'm feeling, maybe that's the actual thing that's making me upset. Maybe it's not actually this medical problem, right? And when you've gotten to that level, you're closer. You're bringing the problem closer and closer to the place where it can actually be healed. And so from that space, if you're asking to see this in a new way, then you're getting closer to realizing that there's only one problem, and that's of believing that you're a human being in this world, and all that's really the source of it. And so from that deep pain that we hold from believing that we're separate, that we're believing that we're this little me in this big bad world, we then project outward our problems. So when we let go of the thing that seems to be upsetting you and go just to the upset, help me to see this in a new way. All of a sudden, you're much closer to it being healed. And that will kind of come sometimes through different layers. But that's where I would say um, to start. I mean, the whole course honestly goes through kind of lots of different things because all of our problems are these like, they feel like these solid balls of pain that honestly sometimes they don't go away, or they go away and they show up um, in a new way, but they're tied together by these little chains that we these unconscious beliefs that hold them together. And so if we can, the course kind of works with that, and lesson number 5 can be really helpful. But honestly, sometimes it's different for every people. So that's why I really encourage people to go through the the workbook, because then what happens for me, like I found lesson number 5, and that one just like dissolved a lot of problems for me pretty quickly. But for other people, it might be lesson number 7 and lesson number 9. You might find one that, oh, that really um, undid some problems in my life. But essentially, the practice is of going to the pain, going to the upset, and saying, "Help me to see this in a new way." And that's what the whole workbook works with. And so we're gonna touch today on lesson 79, which is that help me to recognize that one problem. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, so I definitely feel it within meditation, but it changes within my life. Like it especially, yeah, my perspective on things changes quite a bit. And you just start to have more frequent episodes of feeling peace. And you spend more time in your right mind and less time caught up in our problems. Um, and so it doesn't mean they'll all go away. You'll fall back into them again. But as you release the chains, you're closer and closer to the light, which is up here, right? The truth is right here. And so when we have all the chains, it ties us down. It's really hard to even get one experience of going into the peace. But as we release those chains, those little beliefs that hold us trapped, all the unforgiveness, right? When we do that, we all of a sudden we float here. And here, when you really pray or whatever, or meditate, all of a sudden, because you're a little bit closer, when you go pray, oh, you actually reached it there, right? But you're still weighed down quite a bit by all these beliefs. And then when you release more of them, or you fall back into one of them, um, and you release it, all of a sudden, again, you're here. And from here, actually, you just start to see light a little bit more everywhere. You're not fully there, and you can spend like even more time going into the light when you try to. But even from the bottom, people can have that experience of going into the light, but you get pulled quite quickly and violently back down. So sometimes that's what happens with psychedelics or other things like that, where you can rip yourself into reality. Sometimes that can be harmful, like if you go too fast. But yeah, so as you release those, as you go through the workbook and just open your mind little by little to some of these teachings, you'll float a little bit closer, and then you'll have more frequent episodes of going to the light and feeling peace, and then your problems start to take care of themselves, or they don't, but they no longer bother you. This problem is already taken care of. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so so this is going to go over lesson 79. It is about half an hour, so if people need to go, that's okay. But and the other thing too is that I find Zoom does not often convey the audio very well when you're sharing the screen. So I'm going to give you guys oh, where'd it go? 1 second. 79. I'm just gonna pull it up here in 1 second. Yeah, here we go. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to put the link in the, oh, start. So if the audio is not coming through well to you on the other side, what you can do is just turn down the volume or whatever on this, and play it on your own computer if you have it there. It'll just have better audio. You get the background a little bit better. But this is going to go into just an experience where it's going to do an overview of the lesson, but then you're going to practice it. And what I'd actually like you to do before we do that is, if you have access to a computer or just a pen and paper, what I'd like you to do is just pick out from the top of your mind your top 5 problems, issues that you're having within your life, or they can be little ones, or they can be big ones about what's happening within the world. It doesn't really matter, but whatever's concerning to you, I want you to write those down because that's going to really help you through this lesson to come to a new understanding of them. So I'm going to write mine down here. Oh, I don't have it. I'm going to put them on my phone. 1 second. You don't need to go, like, if you don't get all your major problems, just to list them off so that when we're going through the lesson, you can kind of refer to them and bring them up within your mind um, when you're practicing this one. Okay. All right. You can, if it comes to you or whatever, you can write one down and go on. So, oh, 1 second. Welcome. I forgot, I was going to put it in the chat, just the link. All right, so the link is there in the chat. So if the audio is not coming through well for you, feel free to just play it there. Free your mind. An experiential daily practice designed to dissolve past programming and expand your awareness of your true self beyond the matrix illusion of fear, lack, and separation. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, close your eyes and let go of all memory and anticipation. Bring your full awareness to the now, this holy instant. The purpose of this practice is to enable you to bring unconditional and unwavering peace with you into any and every circumstance, and to heal distress and turmoil. This is not done through avoidance or seeking a haven of isolation for yourself. You are here to discover that peace is an intrinsic part of you and requires only that you be there in full consciousness to embrace any situation in which you are. And as you practice, you will learn that there is no limit to where you are, so that your peace is everywhere as you are. Now take one more deep, slow, full breath in. And as you exhale, allow your body and your mind to relax. Let's begin. Let me recognize the problem
so it can be solved. Today's lesson touches on the essence of the spiritual path, to recognize the real problem, one of being asleep in the dream matrix, and recognizing that there is only one solution: to awaken. Consider our earlier example of your nightly dreams, the dreams that you dream when you sleep. You may encounter different kinds of problems in your dreams, each requiring a different solution. At the level of the dream itself, the only way to solve the problems you're encountering is to make an outward journey, to go out to change something, manipulate something, get rid of something, or acquire something. These are the only options that are presented at the level of the dream consciousness. But these options all exclude the one choice that would resolve all problems simultaneously. And that choice is to become lucid and recognize that this is simply a dream. And in your recognition that it is a dream, you are fully liberated from the need to solve, change, manipulate, or control any aspect of the dream. You know that you are already and always safe. There is nothing that the dream can do, no problem it can present, that would actually have any effect on your true self, which is simply the witness of the dream. Today's lesson applies to all of the problems that confront you now in your daily life, and every problem that you may encounter in the future. The core principle we will focus on is to recognize the core essence of what we call problems in our life. A problem cannot be solved if you do not know what it really is. Even if it is actually already solved, you will still have the problem because you cannot recognize that it has been solved. And this is the situation of the world. Problem of separation, which is really the only problem there is, has already been solved. But the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. Everyone seems to have their own special problems. Yet in truth, the essence of these problems are all the same. They must be recognized as the same if the one solution which solves them all is to be accepted. Who can see that their problems have been solved if they think the problem is something else? Even if they are given the answer, they cannot see its relevance. This is, in fact, the position in which you find yourself now, for as long as you identify with your dream character self. In reality, you already have the answer, but you are still uncertain about what the problem is. A long series of problems seems to confront you, and as one is settled, the next one and the next arise. There seems to be no end to them, and there is no time in which you feel completely free of problems, completely at peace. The temptation to regard all problems as different is a temptation to keep one problem that underlies them all unsolved. The world too seems to present you with a vast number of problems, each one requiring a different answer. This perception places you in a position in which your problem-solving skills will always be inadequate, and failure must be inevitable. No one could solve all the problems the world appears to hold. They seem to be on so many levels, in such varying forms and with such varied content, that they confront you with an impossible situation. This is the very reason why people feel overwhelmed, depressed, and unable to go on in life, because all of the countless problems seem to be impossible to solve. And yet, all of this complexity is but an illusion of the dream matrix. It is an attempt not to allow you to recognize the real problem and not to let it be solved. If you could recognize that your only problem is separation, no matter what form it takes, you could accept the answer because you would not lose sight of its relevance. Perceiving the underlying constant in all the problems that confront you, you would understand that you have the means to solve them all. And you would, of course, apply the means because you would recognize the problem. Here's another practical way to see all of this. There is never a problem but this one. Being here, but wanting to be somewhere else. Doing this, but wanting to do something else. Thinking or feeling this, but wanting to think or feel something else. It is this gap between what is and what you think or desire should be, where all suffering is experienced. This gap is the separation. In this gap, you mentally separate yourself from what is, from the now, from the only thing that is certain. And you make an enemy out of what is, because it is not what your ego thought system says it should be. Now you are in a position of resisting the now, resisting the moment, resisting what is. You are at odds with life, and all that is here and now appears to be a problem to be solved, because it is in the way of what apparently should be. The ego thought system says that to solve this problem, you must use your force to change the outer picture so that it matches what the voice in your head says it should be. In other words, you must work at the level of the problem and change it, control it, manipulate it. Whereas the voice of oneness says only let go, trust, and let me show you. Whatever is unfolding here and now is not the problem. Whatever your ego voice determines is the problem is not the problem. The problem is that you believe the voice in your head, the voice of the ego thought system, the voice of the separation. And you assume that you cannot be at peace until you appease the demands of this voice. In truth, you do not need to appease the demands of the dream voice. You need only to awaken. The problem is already solved because this holy instant contains all that is needed for you to experience love and peace. Because each and every moment is already and always immersed in oneness. Because in each and every moment, you are actually not the dream character self, but your true self. All that needs to unfold through you and out there in the world in order for life to continue to evolve will take place without your mental resistance, without your judgment and condemnation, and without you trying to make it different by separating from it. In today's practice period, you will ask what the problem is and what the answer to it is. Ask as if you are a little child, asking about this for the first time, and do not assume that you already know. Your goal is to integrate this clarity from the inside out. It is not enough to hear that the problem is separation. It is essential that your direct experience, given to you by your inner teacher, reveals this to you. Our practice will be successful to the extent to which we do not insist on defining the problem. Perhaps you will not succeed in letting all of your preconceived notions go, but this is not necessary. All that is necessary is to entertain some form of doubt about the reality of your version of what your problems are. And in the spirit of doubt of what you thought they were, ask your inner teacher to reveal to you what the problem really is. Let's practice. Take a deep breath now. Fill your belly, chest, and all the way to the top. And as you exhale, let go of all of the concepts and open your awareness to this holy instant now. Be fully present and available for this. Begin with beholding your intention to recognize the essence underlying all problems of which you are aware, so that the problem and the answer can be brought together and you can be at peace. Feel your intention now. Hold it in your awareness. And repeat several times slowly as you continue to presence your intention. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Now confront you in your life. Allow them into your awareness, like a procession passing by as you witness them. The Problems in relationship, the problems in finances, the problems in the economy of the world, and whatever personal problems seem to be most important and urgent to you. And as you behold them all in your awareness, say to yourself, perhaps I don't really know what the essence of my problems really is. And I would like to have it be revealed to me. Open your awareness in innocence and in purity of intent. Try to free your mind now of all the different kinds of problems that you think you have. Be open to recognize that you have only one problem, which you have failed to recognize before. Having prepared your mind in this way, now ask, what is the real problem? And wait for the answer. Take the next 3 minutes to ask and receive as you stay present, aware, and lucid. You are asking this of your inner teacher, of the Holy Spirit within you, of your higher self. What is the real problem that I'm experiencing? Do this now. Now, take the next 3 minutes to ask for the solution to this problem and have confidence that you will be told. Again, ask with innocence and purity of intent, and open your inner listening to hear the answer. Do this now.
That's the So yeah, pretty powerful lesson there. You kind of read from lesson 79. I know for me that was pretty profound. It helps, and I think it's important to remember too. It helps if you even just got a hint of a shift, right? If there's even a 5% shift, you know what I mean, and maybe how you see some of your problems, then it works, right? So the goal here is not to like, yeah, obviously, eventually we'll float into oneness. But if you know it worked, you know you're making progress. If some of your problems just feel a little bit looser, if there or you have a little more curiosity, or there's a little more space around them, right? So Deb, like you kind of asked, like, what's one practice? Honestly, each one of the lessons is a different thing that you could apply to your problems, but this one is one option, right? Instead of when you have a problem, instead of it being okay, how do I fix this problem? How do I get rid of it? Instead of being, what is the real problem here? And just asking that question. And that can be what will shift it for you, right? Because sometimes the problem is something, when you're fixated on the problem in the world, you're stuck and you're just going around in circles, right? And the reason is because you're looking for the solution to the wrong problem. Right? And so that's what this one, very gently, of just being like, what is the real problem here? And just, you don't even need to know. You don't even need to acknowledge what it is, but of just sowing that little bit of doubt and being like dropping some of your preconceived notions about what the problem is, that allows just a little bit of light to come in. And that can eventually shift the problem to the point that it can be healed, right? Maybe not right away. Maybe it will work in the background, but um, this is one tool among very many that we have. So sometimes one will work for one person, not for another, but this one is certainly a helpful one. They all kind of converge. Yeah. I mean, it will come to you, but ironically, this is one line from the course. Only infinite patience brings immediate results. So, so
That's
that
great.
it, so you have to be very patient and not be like, I need the answer. Where is it coming? You know what I mean? When you're in that state, it's not going to come, right? So it's actually, you need to be okay with not receiving it within that time. But actually, ironically, when you're okay with, maybe I'm not going to receive it right now, it's going to come to me at some point. And then if you just have that attitude towards it, it will actually come way quicker than if your mind is like, well, what is it? Come on.
Yeah.
What I find is with these lessons, they're kind of taught the way they're meant to be done, I guess, is you do it at the beginning of the day, or you can do it at night and then have the lessons be for the next day. But um, as you do the lessons, what I find is I don't get a lot of results in the first one of the day, but the second or third practice is like, whoa, then the shift happens there. So I think you do need to be open a little bit that this isn't working the first time. Then you do it the second time, the third time. It's around then that I notice that it clicks, like a shift will happen.
How many do you would you do it? Oh.
So what this so the course it has little prescribed intervals for it, and it's different from the beginning. Like the first lesson is 1 minute in the morning and 1 minute in the evenings, right? And then it goes to like 3 or 4 times about 1 or 2 minutes. That's it. But there's a lot of power in that, right? So you don't have to do 30-minute meditations all day long, right? It's not that, because actually there's a ton of power in just a minute 3 times a day. And if you do them well, like because what it's shifting is your mindset the rest of the day. And so what I really find is it's those second and third ones into the evening when I've done it a few times that it really clicks in. And what you notice is not just during those sessions, you notice a shift happens to the way that you're seeing your whole day. And yeah, so they're very short. So usually like this is 79, so then it's building up. So there might be like 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, and then there's the short practice period. So once an hour, you just remember one line for like a few seconds. But what it does is it reprograms your mind on a sometimes better than having this is kind of intense, right? We've been going for like 2 hours, right? But yeah, so actually the shorter the better sometimes. Because you could just read the lesson and do that exercise. That exercise only needed to take 5 or 10 minutes.
Mhm. Okay.
I mean, a lot of it was the intro, right? But the actual
Yeah.
piece of it was only about 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And Patrick, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. What I found really powerful was the working on being in the present moment. I really felt a shift in that meditation where because present moment is another one of those things where you're not quite sure what it means, but I actually felt it tonight. It was so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is that's awesome. That's amazing to hear that. Yeah, the present moment, ego hates it. It feels so irrelevant. We have all our other problems that are coming up, and and so like it just feels like a little sliver in time caught between the past and the present. But really, when you can really sink into it and get through that first layer of being like, this doesn't matter where I need to get to the good stuff or whatever, right? In the present moment, like time dissolves, right? And like there's
It was
this,
a separate space.
yeah,
It's a different dimension.
yeah, that's where all the other dimensions, the oneness, the connection with others who are your enemies, all of it happens in the present moment where you drop past and present or future about what you think you are, what you think that other person is. And when you drop the past and the present, and you come into the now, you can connect deeply with other people, dead or alive or whatever, from that place of knowing that you're one. But you have to drop the past and the present. You have to forget who they seem to be in your life or who you hope they would be for the rest of your life, right? When they're not meeting your expectations. In that present moment it is where time like shifts and you see timelines all at the same time. It is an intense place, but it's hidden behind this veil of insignificance, pointlessness, problems. I have problems. I can't sit in the present moment, So that's this is what it slowly does because our problems are our blocks to the present moment from when we can let
Thank you
them
for
go.
that.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
can really feel it.
Okay. Wow.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Hopefully this is helpful to you guys. I'll put a recording up too if people want to take another
Thank
look,
you.
want to see it. And yeah, awesome. I'm
Thank
just gonna check the chat.
What a good soul.
Okay, yeah. So Ines had to go. Awesome. Melissa had some powerful. I feel lighter. Thank you so much. I need to go and hopefully can join the next session. All right. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. All right. Yeah, so that's it for tonight. Feel free to send me any feedback too about what worked for you guys, what could be shorter. Like I wasn't expecting to go for 2 hours, but I also didn't time it out. So yeah, let me know if you have any suggestions and we'll kind of pick it up from there for next week. All right. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.